And hello YouTube, this is GSmaniamsmart, and I'm today with another brand new video for tutorials with GS. Now today's video is going to be about Adobe After Effects, and it's going to be an introductory video telling all the basics of After Effects, telling you what it can do, and it's basically a beginner video for people who have never used it before and want to learn how to use it and want to know what it's about. I know that this is a video I probably should have done a while ago. I should have done it before my green screening video that I have up right now, but you know, I thought I'd do it today. Probably should have done it on my original channel even, because I've been having After Effects for quite some time now. So it's just a beginner introductory video. If you already know After Effects a little bit and looking for some more advanced videos, I will be making those in the future. I already have some. I have one on this channel. I have a few on my original channel. So if you want to check those out, you can. But for those of you new to After Effects, if you have any version of After Effects, I have the CC version. If you have the CS6, CS5, or CS4 version, or any of those versions, they're pretty much the same. There's not many things we're going to be doing in this video today that you can't do in earlier versions, so don't worry about it. Now basically what After Effects is, it's an advanced video editing software. You can add special effects to it. You can add different kinds of effects to different videos. You can basically render videos together, you know, manipulate images and video all together in one program here. It's a massive software that you can basically put a bunch of files together and, you know, create, you know, a really nice video that you can edit, add effects to. And you know, this is what a lot of movie makers use, especially. So it's a lot more advanced than Movie Maker, but like I said, you can still use this program for basic things. So you know, you can learn a lot of things by using this program. So if you open After Effects, you'll probably get the screen right here. Not much in the screen right here other than, you know, some things that you don't need to do right now, because everything that you can do to the screen you can do on the menu up here. So just to let you guys know, I'm gonna be working with a piece of video footage that is available for download in the description. There's a link in the description where you can download the same video file that I'm gonna be working with right now, and you can follow along with this tutorial or listen to it, and you can do the same things that I'm doing in your After Effects project. So the file that I am using will be available for download. Just go in the description, download it, and you can work with me, and hopefully maybe you'll learn that way better. So if you have your file, or I have my file ready, the first thing you want to do is go ahead and import the file either from here, double clicking, or what you can do is go up to File and go to Import. And if you have multiple files, you can import multiple files. We just have one, so we're gonna go File, we're gonna scroll down, and here is our video file, and import. Now one thing you need to understand is that there's a difference between video files and what Adobe After Effects calls compositions. Compositions is where you're gonna do all your editing in. You know, it's not like Movie Maker where you drag a video file in and you can start editing on that video file. In After Effects, you need to create a composition first, where all of your video files, all of your image files are going to be at, and there's where you can move everything around. So for example, if I were to create, you know, a new composition here, you know, I could drag this movie file on it, and I can move it around, and I can add a bunch of other files on top of this and manipulate it like that. So a composition is basically what you're going to export. It's what your video is going to look like when you finish with it. So don't get video files and compositions confused, because they are different things. So let's go ahead and delete that, because we're not at that step yet. So once you have your file here, what you can do is you can double click the file and you can actually preview it in After Effects here. So if you press the spacebar, you'll see that you can go through the video file. Now as you'll notice, one of the things that we're going to do with this video file is cut it. You see at the beginning is very long. There's not much happening in the beginning here. I mean, it's just the two people standing on top of this waterfall. Not much is happening. Nothing actually happens until about the 20, yeah, around the 24, around the 20-second mark, around the 25-second mark is where they actually begin to jump. So what we want to do is we want to clip we want to set boundaries for this video so that when we're working with it in our composition, we don't need to work with this huge video where for the most part nothing is happening. So we're gonna start our clipping boundary right about here, and you want to go ahead and click this button right here, and that'll basically set your in point. If you want to set your out point, we're gonna set it right there, and you want to click this button right here, set out point. Now you can go ahead and close your preview window, as your boundaries and your clippings will be saved in the main file here. And this little panel right here is basically your project file, your project files window. You can think of it as a library. All of the files that you're working with are here, and you can work on those files all in here in your timeline, which is where your composition is going to be. So now what we want to do is we want to create a composition for this movie. So we're going to go ahead and just drag it down to this button right here, and this will basically create, it will turn this video file into a composition, and it will basically have all the settings that it needs to have. It'll have the correct screen resolution, it'll have the correct length, the correct frames, and everything will basically be pretty much easily set for you. You don't need to mess around with any of the composition settings we saw earlier. If you ever wanted to change the length of this composition, say you wanted to make your video a little longer, say you wanted to, add a little more from the beginning, from the previous point of this part, you could go to composition, you can go to composition settings, and there you can change all the settings. You can change the duration of it, the start time, and the screen resolution if you needed to. But for now, we already have the settings that we need, so we're just going to click cancel. Now what we're going to be doing in this tutorial is, first of all, as you can see, the focus are on these two subjects. However, if we look at this video, the grass here is very bright, the rocks here are pretty bright, and it kind of distracts the viewer from the actual subject of this video. So we're going to be adding a color correction, or the actual effect is called an exposure effect, and we're basically going to be lowering the brightness of this specific area right here. Now, this is something you can't do in Movie Maker. You can't specifically edit a portion of your video, just a selection of your video. You have to edit the whole thing. You can't add an effect to just an area of the video. You have to add the effect to the entire thing. So this is one of the cool things about After Effects. Apart from that, we're also going to add some text when the two subjects of this video jump into the water. We're going to add a nice effect animation, a text animation, not an effect, a text animation that will basically have some text appear and then it'll disappear when the splash goes away. Now, as you can see, when you preview this video here, it's very jittery, it's kind of blurry, and to fix that, what you want to do is just press the space bar, and it will basically preview this file for you. This green bar right here is basically showing you how much of the video has loaded, so that you can watch it freely without any interruptions. Then, as you can see, then you can freely watch the video without any interruptions. If you have any blue bars, you have to do it again real quick, but for the most part, you can watch everything. After about 2 cycles of this pressing spacebar, you can pretty much watch it without any interruptions. One thing I do want to point out for you to notice is that default, your Adobe After Effects will have the setting right here set to about, I think it's half or a third. This is basically the quality of the video. The lower you have this, if you have this to a third quality, it's basically showing you the video footage at a third of its quality. It's also going to make this preview take a lot shorter. For very long videos, this preview may take a while because the green is basically how much RAM you have, and if your video is very long, you're using more RAM, it's going to take a longer time to allow you to watch this video freely without any interruptions. Now, one thing, if you have a very long video and you don't want to, if you only want to view specific parts of it, say you want to view it in portions and want to work on each part of the video in portions, what you can do is use this little button, use a little tool right here. This is the work area start. I don't know what this is, like a little marker, I guess it is. And if you move this marker around, you can actually select what you want to work on first, and when you press spacebar, well, right now everything's green, but if you were to press spacebar and this entire thing wasn't green, it would only basically preview this part right here, and whenever you make changes, you won't need to basically preview the entire video anymore, because if you're editing from here and this thing was all the way like that, if it was extended like this, you'd have to preview the whole video again just to see what edits you've made. So you can minimize this so that your previews can be more efficient, and we're going to work on that later, you'll see. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and add that color correction exposure effect here. So what we're going to do is we're going to first create a mask. Now what the mask will do, it'll basically create a selection in the video where we want the effect to be on. We don't want the effect to be in the entire video. We only want it to be in this little area right here. So we're going to be creating a mask and also an adjustment layer. So the first thing we want to do is go to layer, go to new, and go to adjustment layer. Now a lot of these other layers can do different things. They're used for other different purposes, but for now, adjustment layer will be appropriate. Now everything below this adjustment layer is what is going to take effect. Now if you add, for example, a blur effect, everything below this adjustment layer is going to have that blur effect. An adjustment layer is basically adjusting everything below it. So everything above the adjustment layer will not be affected. That's why if you move this down here, the adjustment layer won't do anything. If you move it up here, it'll affect the waterfall. If you have a text layer above it, then the text layer will not be affected by the adjustment layer and its effects. So now we have adjustment layer. We're going to go ahead and, oops, double click that by accident. We're going to go ahead and create our mask. Oh, why am I keep on doing that? So by creating our mask, we're going to use our pen tool up here. And we're going to zoom out a bit so we can see the entire video footage. And we're going to start creating our mask. So you can just draw a mask like that. Doesn't need to be perfect, can be pretty rough. And one thing you want to do is make sure that the subjects of this video are not included in this mask. They're outside of the mask. If you ever make a mistake, you can always press Ctrl Z and it'll basically undo what you've done before. So when you have connected your mask, it's basically like connecting the dots. So once you've connected the end point with the start point here, then it'll basically complete itself. And what you can then do is zoom into this. So let's go ahead and go into 100% view and use our hand tool or the move tool up here. And we're going to make sure that throughout this entire video, our subjects are not within this mask. And if they are, we'll see. So if we go through this, I can see it's very blurry again. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and press spacebar so we can preview this quicker. And here you can even see there's a problem with it. Right there, we already see a problem right here. Our mask needs to be extended a bit more that way. But we're gonna let this finish real quick. And there we go. Now, as I was saying, you don't want to have to reload the entire whole video, because if you make an edit, you're gonna have to if you change this mask, you're gonna have to reload the entire thing again. So I'm gonna be showing you how to avoid that. So if we see here, everything is good here, everything is good here, and in fact, we could even lower this mask a bit more. If you want to edit your mask, you click the selection tool here, and you can just move your mask down. Now, as you can see, the green bar here went away. So now we have to RAM preview. We have to preview the entire thing again to let everything load. But to avoid that, we can just change the work area to however we like. Now, everything here. Okay, so here's where the problem starts. So we're gonna go ahead and move our work area here, and we're gonna minimize it to there. And when we press spacebar, it'll only go through that area. So we're gonna go ahead and move down a little bit. And as we can see, right here we see the guy's hands and his head actually go into the mask. So we want to fix that. We don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab our selection tool again, and we're just going to move this mask like so, so that he's not inside of it. And now let's see. A little better, but now we see that when he comes down that he's part of this now. So we need to edit this as well. So we're just gonna move this a little bit to that way, a little bit to that side, like so. And it doesn't need to be perfect. I mean, if for about a second or half a second he's inside the mask, you know, it doesn't need to be perfect. However, you can make it perfect if you'd like. We can move this a little more that way. And that's a lot better. I mean, for that split second his arm is in, but it's honestly not going to make a huge noticeable difference. So now that we have that done, now we can go back to fit up to 100% zoom, and we can expand this work area a bit more. As you can see, for the most part, everything else is pretty safe. Everything else is not inside the mask. So now that we have our mask, what we're going to do next is add our effect. So to add our effect, we go on the right side here, this right panel here where it says effects and presets, and we're going to type in exposure. Now what you can also do is you can, if you want to search for an effect, you can search for the effect by going to this list here, scrolling down. The exposure effect is a color correction effect, so we go color correction here and then scroll down. We see that exposure is here. Next thing you want to do is you want to drag this exposure effect onto your adjustment layer right here. And then as you can see, we now have our adjustment layer effects on the left side here. Now what you can do here is you can change the exposure to higher or to lower. Now what we want to do is we want to lower this exposure a bit, so maybe going to, you can either drag it like that, or you can type in the numbers. Now we put it to 0, this is how it was. We might want to put it to I think 0.1. Let's try 0.2. I think 0.2 is pretty good compared to our 0. Oh, not 0, negative 0.2. Yeah, I think negative 0.2 is pretty good. Maybe we'll go even lower a bit. Maybe we'll go -1. But that makes it a bit abnormal. So maybe we'll go to -0.5. There we go. And now you can see that if we go ahead and take our adjustment layer off by clicking this little eyeball here, you can tell the difference that it has on your video. As you can see, now it isn't that bright anymore. It isn't that, you know, it isn't in your face that much anymore. Now it pretty much blends in with the background a bit more. It's not too distracting to the viewer. However you want to add this to your preference, you could change it to -1 or however you want to add it. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add our text. We've added our color correction, we've added our exposure effect. If you want to see the effects that you have on, you click the little down arrow here and you go to the effects, and you can manage all of your effects from here. As you can see, you can even edit your effects from here. You wouldn't have to do it in this menu here. So we're going to go ahead and add our text effect now. We're going to go ahead and click our waterfall movie file again, and go ahead and click the horizontal type tool text, the type tool here, and just click on your image, and you can begin to type anything you want here. Now, I don't want this font, and I certainly don't want this color either. Let's go ahead and go with a white color. And we're going to use we'll see what text we want. Let's change this text to what font do we want to use? Let's use Rockwell. Rockwell's always a good font. And we're going to type in splash with 2 exclamation marks at the end. And what we're going to do next is increase this size. And you can change all your fonts and colors and sizes on the right side here. Once again, you can use the slider, or you can type in the numbers. I think this is a good size right here. Let's make it to 90. If you want to move the text around, use your selection tool up here, and you can move the text wherever you want to have it. Now, one thing to notice is that make sure that your text is above your adjustment layer, because if it's under your adjustment layer will also affect the text, and we don't want it to affect the text. So now that we have some text on it, we want to animate this text. We don't just want it to stand there, because if we watch this video, it's there for the entire time. We don't want that. We want it to appear when they start jumping in the water, and want it to disappear when the splash of the water is gone. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look for the portion. Well, first we're going to RAM preview this again. Now, if you don't want to press spacebar always, what you can do is you can also use this button right here, which is the RAM preview button, and it's basically the same thing. It'll RAM preview. It'll preview the video for you, just as if you're doing with the spacebar. For some reason though, for me, I feel like the spacebar goes quicker. I don't know, maybe it's just a psychological thing there. But we're going to let this go all the way to the end. And as we can see, right about around that area to begin, I'm going to go ahead and stop the RAM preview actually, so we can work with this area right here. Actually, that's just a RAM preview this a bit more, so we can get the actual splash in there. Come back over here. And what we'll do is we'll also adjust our work area, so we don't need to keep on RAM previewing the entire video. We'll only RAM preview the area where the splash is starting and where the splash is ending, which is at the end of the video. So once again, to do that, we're just going to grab our, actually going to move this a bit to the side here. We're going to grab our marker tool, and right about there is where we'll start our work area. Alright. Now what you can do is, if you like to make it very precise, we can once again zoom in, go 50% maybe, or we can even go 100%, and use our move tool. And if you hold down Control and use the right arrow key, you can actually go frame by frame. And we're actually going to have the text appear right there. That's where it will begin to appear. So what you can then do is go back to your selection tool and grab the end of this text layer and just drag it to where your marker here is. And if we go before that area now, we press spacebar to RAM preview this little portion right here, you'll see that the text does not appear until where it's defined to appear. Now if we wanted to animate this, and we don't just want it to pop up like it does, all we can do is click the down arrow here on splash. We can go to transform, and we can start to add some animations. Now what you'll have here is several options here. Opacity is how transparent the text is. You have rotation, which is rotating, scale, which is how big or small it is, position, which is where it is right now, the position of it. And what you want to understand is that After Effects works with keyframes, and keyframes are basically how animations work. So if I wanted to zoom in on this timeline a bit, you can use this little option down here, which zooms in. If you move this little ball to the right or to the left, you can zoom into your timeline so you can make more precise animations. Now, we want to start animation right here, obviously. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to increase the size of this text so that it starts very small, and once they've basically splashed into the water, the text will be very large. So what we're gonna do is, here is right before they've actually entered the water. And actually, we can actually move this a frame back to right before they even touch the water, right there. And the keyframes are basically here, these little stopwatches. Whenever you click this stopwatch, it'll basically let After Effects know at this point in time you want the text to look like this. So right now, we don't want the text to look like this. We want it to look very small. So we're going to go ahead and change the scale all the way down to 0. And if you actually put negative numbers, it'll actually turn upside down. So we're going to go 0. And after that, we're going to click the stopwatch. And it will create a little keyframe for you, a little diamond there. This tells After Effects, at this point in time, I want my text to look like that, which is basically nothing. And if we go frames into it, we want the text to begin getting big right about here. Say we want it to be at maximum size here. So then we're going to go over here and type in 100. And whenever you change the value here, it'll basically create another keyframe. And then, as you can see, as we go through the frames, the text actually becomes animated. So this is how animations are done. You could do this with objects, you could do this with images, and you could do it with text, obviously. Now, next thing you want to do, if you wanted to add more animations, you could do the same thing. Say you wanted it to become big and come in from the right of the screen. You could do that. You could, go back to your first keyframe here, where the text starts, and you could go ahead and add a position here. Add a keyframe. You click your little stopwatch, position, and actually, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make this text come from the water. So we're gonna Control Z again, and for now, let me just come over here so I can see the text. And we're gonna go ahead and move this text down to right about here. And we're going to go back over here. Now remember, as long as you don't have this stopwatch checked, it will not record what you are doing. It will not record any values that you are changing or things that you're moving around. So right here, we're going to have our text position be here. And then when it becomes full size, or maybe even, you know, a frame after it becomes full size, we're going to change the position to be moved up. Now you could add values here if you like, or you could move it manually with your arrow keys or with your mouse. Either method works. So we're going to keep it right there. And now if we RAM preview this, you'll see that it actually animates with respect to scaling and positioning. And we're going to go ahead and zoom back out from this timeline so we can actually have a better view of this. And we're going to RAM preview only a small portion here. RAM preview. And as you can see, there you go. Looks pretty cool. Now, next thing we want to do is we want to make this text go away when the splash goes away. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and RAM preview from there on to the end, so that we can now one thing I do want to notify you that I actually forgot in the beginning. If you press spacebar to view your video, your audio will not be included. However, if you use the RAM preview button here, your audio will be included. So just something to note there. Now if we watch this portion right here, I'm going to adjust our work area so that it only includes up to this point here. So as you can see here, the splash starts to go away right about here. So what we want to do is we basically want to have our splash text fade out here. We want it to be completely gone. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it so that our splash stays like this, stays the opacity like this. So right about here, I'm going to go to opacity, click the stopwatch. At this point in time, I want my text to look like this. Everything before, it will look the same. I want it to start changing from this point on, and when our splash goes away, which is right about there, from there I want it to look 0 opacity. And as you'll see, it add a little keyframe there for you. And if we RAM preview this again, well, not RAM preview it because RAM previewing is with audio. If we preview it again and we don't select the text, you'll see that now also fades away. And if you wanted to, you know, make it fade away and go down again, you could do the same thing. You just change the positioning here. So now if we were to look at the entire jump, which I believe starts around here. Yeah, here we go. If we look at the entire jump here, it looks pretty cool. So now we've actually added some text, we've added some animation, and we've added some color correction and some color correction exposure actually to a specific region of our video. And that's basically going to be it for editing. These are some of the basic edits that you can do. And next thing we're going to do is show you how to export your video so that you can upload it to YouTube, or play it on your iPad, or play it on your phone, or play it on wherever you want to play the video on. So once you have it completed like so, you can export your video actually. And to export, you just go up to File, you go to Export. Now if you have a media encoder, you could export it into there, and you can basically select your preset there. But I'm going to be showing it with the render queue that Adobe uses, because I know some of you don't have the media encoder, because I have gotten messages in the past on my other channel. But for the most part, this is basically going to be the same thing. I opened media encoder anyway just to show you what you can do in media encoder if you do have media encoder. So let me just go add. What you would basically do is, I'm just gonna go add a random video file here. What you'd basically do if you're using media encoder, you'd go to File, you'd go to Export and click Add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue, and it'll basically pop it up in here. But if you don't have it, or if media encoder doesn't work for you for some reason, you'd go to File and Export, and you click Add to Render Queue, and it will basically queue it and render it in After Effects. The only reason why you'd want to use the media encoder over the After Effects is because the file size is a lot lower, and it basically compresses it a bit more and makes it available to upload to different sites easier. However, what you can do is you can, if you have media encoder, what you can do if you wanted to, for example, if it doesn't work, the transfer between Adobe After Effects to media encoder, because I do know some people get some kind of error about some dynamic link error or something like that. I've read about it. So if you happen to get that error, what you can then do is, if this rendered, you can then just re-render it in a media encoder here if you wanted to, but you wouldn't really need to do that. Either or works. You can render it in After Effects, or you can render it in media encoder. But if you were to render it media encoder, you basically get over here, you click one of these two links, it opens the same window, and you would just pick one of these options here. But I'm going to be showing it in After Effects because you basically get the same options, so, and everyone can do it in After Effects. So for here we have the settings right here. For the most part, you always want to keep this at best settings. It's going to be at default for that, so don't mess around with that. What you do want to mess around with is the output module, and if you click this link down here and you click over here, you'll see that there are several ways you can output this, and we're gonna output this to H.264. And for the post render action, you don't really need to do anything here. What you can do is you can set it to import if you're gonna re-render it in the encoder. You could set it to import, or you can just leave it. No, it doesn't really make that huge of a difference. And then to format options, you would basically see the basic video settings here, and the profile, it'll basically set the quality, baseline. You can set it to main, or you can set it to high. For the most part, either of these work. It's not make the big of a difference. High is the one that makes a huge difference. You can max the quality out here, and for levels you want to go 5.1. Now if you want to mess around with these options right here, you could put this all the way up to 300 Mbps, which will basically make your file size very large. However, what you can do is just set it to high, and it'll basically keep it at 240. That should be fine. It shouldn't be that huge of a loss in quality. So we're gonna go ahead and click OK, and we're gonna go ahead and click OK here, and then you could change the name of it here, and that's fine. And then you can click render, and you do the same thing in media encoder. If you wanted to do it in media encoder, you do the same thing. You click the link here, and it'll basically have your After Effects project here, and you go over here to format. You'd pick which one you want. A lot of different codecs here. For the most part, you're gonna be using H.264 mostly. You may use AVI, you may use Windows Media as a WMV file, but mostly this is an MP4 file, H.264. So you're most likely gonna be using it. And then for preset, you have a lot of presets here for whether it's an Apple Apple phone, Apple TV, Android phone, iPad. If you want to upload it from Vimeo, if you want to upload it for YouTube, for 4K quality, for HD, 1080, 720. We're gonna pick. You can pick 1080 HD, and then everything down there at the bottom you can leave the same, because what this does, it basically, the preset that you're using here basically defines the options down here. You only change these options if you want to make your own preset, but the preset here is what defines everything down here. So from here on, you would just click OK, and then you would click the green arrow. But we're just gonna go ahead and re-render this in Media Encoder, and as you can see, this is nearly done. Obviously, the longer your video is, the longer this process will take. There we go, it finished. And if you go ahead and go to your desktop now, you'll see here is your file, and you'll see the file size is 105 megabytes, which is pretty large for like a 10-second or a 20-second video file. So what you could then do is go to the encoder here, and you could just drag this in here. And everything here is set already. If not, you can set it again, and then you click the green play button here, and it will compress this down into a lower file size, because the media encoder basically compresses a lot more than the After Effects one does, because this is mainly the rendering system here is used for if you're going to be using the file in further editing, if you're going to be editing it for post-production. But like I said, if you have problems with your media encoder, because I do know a lot of people have messaged me saying they do have problems with it, if you have problems with it, then just do it this way and you can re-render it in media encoder. However, if it works for you, then you don't need to go through this whole hassle of rendering it here and then rendering it back here, and it makes it a lot easier. But now that this is done, you'll see that it's done, and if you wanted to, you can now delete this. And as you'll see, we have a second one here, and it's only 14 megabytes, much lower than the 105 megabytes. And the difference in quality is, it's barely even noticeable. The difference in quality, there is no difference pretty much. There it is. As you can see, we have our splash, we have our fade out, and our color correction here is still the same. If we were to compare this with the original, you see that it's much brighter up here. And if we go back to this version here, much less brighter here. But the quality difference is honestly not noticeable. In fact, I just opened the 105 megabyte one right here, and now it plays, but there's honestly no difference in quality. It's just that one size is bigger because of the codec that After Effects uses. But that's basically it, guys. Hopefully you learned how to use After Effects, how to export, how to edit, and potentially how to get around an error if you get an error that pops up like that. And that's pretty much it. I'll be creating more tutorials in the future, advanced ones, beginner ones, stuff like that. And if you use any of these other programs here at the bottom, Bridge or Lightroom or Premiere Pro or Photoshop, I will be creating videos for those as well. Thank you for watching, and I hope that this video helped you out in any way. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It'll really help me out. If you didn't like it, you can leave a comment as well, giving some feedback. If you have any other comments or questions, please leave them in the comments as well, and I'll do my best to answer them. I usually respond to comments within 24 to 48 hours, depending on your question and depending on how busy I am. I have plenty of other content on my channel about different software tutorials and how-to videos, so if you're interested in that type of stuff, check it out. And if you like what you're seeing, you can subscribe too. Really appreciate it. You can also check out my other channels and social media as shown on the screen right now. And with that, thank you so much, everyone. And this is GSmaniamsmart, and I'll be back sooner than you think. Don't go anywhere.